Hey, welcome to Ken's Money Matters. I want to assure you that it's possible to retire by the age of 30, and there are people who are doing it right now, there are people who have done it already, and there are people who are in the process of retiring early. So it is possible to retire at the age of 30. I know it sounds crazy, out of reach, but it is something that a lot of people have been doing, especially a lot of millennials. Welcome back, guys, to Ken's Money Matters. It's a wonderful day. We're going to talk about early retirement. A lot of people would be interested in this topic because not so many people are happy in their jobs. According to research, over 70% of those who are working, and especially the millennials, do not enjoy what they are doing. And therefore, a lot of them are thinking about retiring early. But what I say is that the solution for a bad job is to change your career. So retiring early is definitely not a solution for a bad career or for suffering in a bad job. So what do we mean when we say you can retire by the age of 30? It's a very simple concept. It's a concept that has been growing in numbers. A lot of people are joining the movement. A lot of people are, buying into the idea of early retirement. And so many millennials have gotten into this idea, and they're working so hard and focused on retiring by the age of 30 or by the age of 40 or 35. Stay tuned and let's see, is it possible to actually retire by the age of 30 or 40? So just like I said, it is possible to retire by the age of 30, but we want to look at the ways in which you can go about it. We want to look at what was the origin of this movement and what are some of the reasons why people are going through with it, and then look at the possibilities and the numbers that are involved in terms of this dream. Number one, so what is FIRE? Have you heard of something called FIRE? FIRE is Financial Independence, Retire Early. So basically, it looks at financial independence and the ability to retire early. So it means if you can achieve that financial independence, you are in a position to retire early or do whatever you want with your time. And for me, the fact that you can control your energy, your freedom, and your time is the biggest thing and the most critical thing you can ever give to yourself. I'm definitely not in this movement myself. I have my own way of doing things, but I know this is a possible route to early retirement, and so that you don't have to work for anyone. It is a movement that was born out of a book. It's the book, I think it's called Your Money or Your Life. Basically, it looked at the comparison between people working the whole of their life for some money, and it just did not add up according to the authors of the book. So people started to think of ways in which people can actually get back their time or regain the control of their freedom. And the only way is when you stop working, but you are able to survive in this capitalistic world, because at the end of the day, you still need to pay your bills and do 1, 2, 3. And there are so many people who have now gotten into the movement. They retire very early, some even as early as 27, 26. But it depends on the numbers we're going to look into. So how do you go about the FIRE movement? How do you ensure that you retire early? Is it possible to retire by the age of 30, 35, or 40, or even below 30? What do you do? So just to mention, there are different types of FIRE. There's the lean FIRE, there's the fat FIRE, then there's the Barista FIRE, there's the coast FIRE. So these different formats just basically looks into what kind of life do you want. Some people want to completely retire off their jobs and never work again. Some people want to have like a part-time job whereby they still get some money to offset some expenses, while some people want a mixture of both. They want to retire but maybe have some time to volunteer or anything. So these different types of FIRE basically depend on how much you save for your retirement. So how do you go about FIRE? Let's look at the practicalities behind the movement FIRE. Simply, how do you go about retiring as early as at the age of 30 or the age of 40 or the age of 35, whatever it is you want to retire, whatever your goal is, it really doesn't matter. But most millennials want to retire by the age of 30, age of 40. So how do you go about it practically? There are certain steps that you must take for you to consider yourself to be in the FIRE movement. So basically, these are the principles behind the FIRE movement. Number one is frugality. You have to be extremely frugal. Now, these are the people who want to go buying new cars, like I do sometimes. They won't go traveling all over the world like I do again. They won't go, spending money out, going for dinners and lunch like I do. So definitely I'm not in this plan. But yes, if you want to achieve that early retirement, you need to be extremely frugal with your money. So you need to be extremely minimalistic to ensure that a good percentage of your income goes into savings and eventually your investments. This is extremely important because this is basically at the foundation of the movement. This is the principle of the movement. The founding principle of the movement is that you have to be extremely frugal, because not so many people make a lot of money to live a good life and still manage to save for an early retirement. So the best thing is live minimally, ensure that you're not spending any extra money, and make sure that you're saving the better part of your income to achieve this retirement goal. So most people would say, how much will you save? We are going to look at that at the end of the video. How much do you need to save in order to achieve a particular lifestyle at the end of it? So if you are frugal, what do you do next with the money? You save the money. You save 50 to 70% of your annual income. So if you're making something to do with $100,000, you will see how much you're going to save. Maybe you will have to save $70,000 and only utilize $30,000. So of course you will do the percentages based on your situation. That's why we call it personal finance. It's dependent on what you want, what you're earning, and what your goal is. So the second step is the saving part. You have to ensure that you're saving at least 50 to 70%. Some people go even crazy, go to 75%. And of course, like I said, there are different types of FIRE, and therefore it means that people would want to save less because they don't want to be so frugal. But again, that means you don't retire so early. So if you want to achieve that early retirement, like at the age of 30 or 29 or 28 or 27, then it means you have to save extremely high. Your savings rate must be very high. So that's the second step. You must save a better part of your income. So step number 3 is to become a passive investor. For you to actually make sure that the money you're making or you're saving makes you more money, you have to invest it. But you don't have to trade stocks. There's a difference between active investing, whereby you're picking stocks, and passive investing, which is mostly proposition by some of the best investors like Warren Buffett, like John Bogle. What you do is simple: invest in the market and follow the indexes. It's called index fund investing. So basically you're buying into some of the best or the biggest companies. For example, if you are tracking the S&P 500, you are buying into each and every one of those companies. So historically, and according to research, the market has never ever gone below 6% return. So if we look at average, the market always gives an average of 6 or to 10%. And most of the time, actually, it is 8 to 10%. So by saying 6, we are being very conservative and taking into consideration the inflation rates. So if you invest in the market with this money that you're saving, and you're sure of a fixed return every year of, let's say, 8 to 10% or 6 to 10%, it means basically your money will be working for you. So for you to ensure that that money will serve you, it has to be passively invested in the market. If you pick stocks, of course, there are risks to that and you cannot control what happens. So you have to passively invest money. That's step number 3. Step number 4 involves the figures with regards to FIRE movement. What are some of the figures? I know most of you want to know how much money do you actually need to retire. So what you need is 30 times your annual expenses. So if you are someone who requires $50,000 a year, you will need to multiply that by 30 and get 1.5 million. That's the amount you will need invested in the market for you to get back for you to live like you have been living and for you to retire early. So if you have been using $100,000 a year, you multiply that by 30, that's $3 million. You must have that invested for you to retire safely and securely. So anyone who wants to retire, remember, look at your annual expenses and ensure that you multiply it by 30, and that should be the retirement pot that you should be having. So that's a very critical point. And then what do you do after having that money invested in the market? How do you make sure you live off that money without depleting it? You must make sure that it gives you the constant return of the market. And that's why we spoke about passive investing. So if the market has been giving a return of, let's say, 6 or 8 to 10%, it means every single year you will only be withdrawing money that your money has made. So if you have 3 million in the market and it makes you around 8%, you will be taking whatever it has made you and not the principal. Basically, it's an idea whereby you get to live off your money without touching the principal amount. So you're only living off what the investment is giving you. And because we look at the stock market and how it has given returns historically, it means you're you possibly will live without touching the principal amount. So the next question would be, how much would you want to use so that you don't touch on the principal? Again, it means you have to withdraw a certain amount every year. So what is suggested is that you withdraw 4%. There's a rule called the 4% withdrawal rule. So you can only withdraw 4% every single year of that money for it to continue being in the market and for you not to interfere with the principal amount. So if you follow the 4% rule, whereby you only taking 4% out, then it means if the market goes 6%, 8%, it means you still have more money. So the rule here is save 30 times your annual expenses in a retirement pot, have it invested in the market. Hopefully it's going to give you 6 or to 8% or 10% every single year, but make sure you're drawing 4% for your expenses. It means you will never run out of money, basically. That is the idea behind FIRE, and so many people are working towards it. So if you're withdrawing 4% of that money every single year, you don't run out of money and you're able to make more money from the markets. And finally, of course, the most important point is that you don't go overspending the money. So discipline is very important, because sometimes when people are free and they want to do stuff, they start overindulging. So if you overindulge, of course, you're going to lose the money, or you're going to use the principal, and therefore it will affect the whole calculation. So discipline is at the heart of it. If you want to achieve this, it means even after you retire, you cannot overindulge and use too much money. Your living expenses have to be retained to the same level, just the way they were when you were making the initial calculation. So yes, this is a good idea. So many people are doing it. Like I've told you, those are the steps you need to follow if you want to get involved into it. There are so many blogs written about it. There are so many videos that have been done about it. So yes, you're free to do your research. Make sure it's something that can work for you, and then you can get into the movement. And for those like me who wants to live their life now, want to eat out, want to buy a new car, and want to travel the world, this is definitely not for you. You just have to live a normal life and plan with the traditional conservative retirement plans. Anyway, guys, thank you for being with me. I hope this helped you make some decision. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and share this content so that we can have more people get to Ken's Money Matters. Thank you, guys. Until next time.